In sports, a dog is a player who is disciplined, hardworking, and has a strong desire to succeed. A disciplined athlete with grit. This is the Dogs on Skates show.
Hello and welcome in. My name is Joran, aka J-Dog, and with me is my good friend and co-host, Andy. We are excited that you have joined us for our first ever edition of Dogs on Skates. How are you doing today, Andrew?
Could be better. Happy to be here for the first one.
Love it. That was quite a game tonight. Excited to get into that. But before we do, could you do a quick run through of what the show's all about?
Absolutely. So J-Dog and myself, huge Canucks fans. We're also big fans of Canucks podcasts, as I'm sure if you found our show, you are as well. You've also probably known that most Canucks podcasts are largely the same, right? They're covering the same news at the same times, the post games. It's all very consistent. A lot of it's very good, but it's very consistent. We're looking to do something a little bit different. So we don't take ourselves too seriously. We're not going to take the show too seriously. We hope you don't take us too seriously either. So we're going to have some fun with it. We're going to approach Canucks hockey from some different angles that we haven't really seen done before. And we hope that you come along for the ride.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right, well, let's get into it.
This week in Canucks hockey.
So we're going to start with the game recaps, look at the week that was for the Vancouver Canucks. And that starts with Sunday against the Red Wings. Quite an interesting game. Had a lot of our new players in the lineup for the first time, which was really fun. Really fast game. Like, you really notice the speed that a lot of those players brought, specifically guys like Philip Hedl really brought like a entrance into the zone that we just haven't really seen before on this Canucks team. Really excited by the appearance of Elias Pettersson, DPD, DPD. And what those guys were able to bring to that game. Obviously, fell short in overtime, but really was impressed with the effort. It was really different than the Canucks games that we had seen previously. Prior to the Miller trade, I felt like this team was really stuck in a rut. Really just kind of bad vibes. And it almost felt like a new coach bump with a lot of those players coming in. And I think the guy I was most concerned about after that game was Elias Pettersson, because it seemed like everyone else had legs. Even his line mates were going, but I just wasn't seeing a lot from him. And like when he was trying to do things, I felt like he was always kind of out of position or not knowing where he was supposed to be, or he would realize kind of 2 seconds too late and try and get there, but he's not the most mobile forward. So exciting things. Hopeful that PD can start to get it off and start to get it in the right direction. It was a fun game. It was the funnest game we've probably seen in like 2 or 3 months, it felt like.
It was, and we talked after the game about how entertained we were and how happy we were sitting there after a loss.
Yeah.
And how it had been a while since we felt that way about this Canucks team. The new coach bump is a good analogy, right? It felt exactly like that. Almost everybody was going. Almost everybody looked like they had fresh legs. For the first time, we actually saw the Canucks, instead of blow a lead in the third, actually come back in the third and salvage a point out of a game. So that was refreshing. And I think that speed element that was brought is just, it was so sorely lacking in this team before. And it's one of those things that I don't think I realized how much it was missing until I saw a bit of it injected into the team.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, oh, of course, you need to be able to skate to play hockey. Of course.
Totally.
Yeah. And I think you're right about Pettersson in that one too, right? I mean, he's been in a funk for so long going into that game. I don't know if he's overthinking the game or not thinking hard enough, or maybe he's just wildly swinging from one extreme to the other, right? And it honestly looks like that sometimes. right? Sometimes
Totally.
he's, like you say, he's in the wrong spot. Sometimes he's just overthinking a shot or a pass, and the play fizzles and dies. So,
Totally. Yeah. And that was like a red hot Red Wings team coming in. I think they had won 5 or 6 in a row.
I think it was 6.
They
Yeah.
had the most points, I believe, either most wins or most points since Christmas coming into that game out of any team in the NHL. Like that's a team that's rolling and not just like on a 5-game heater. They've been consistently good since getting their new coach. So for the Canucks to dominate them, I think they were, I can't remember exactly what the shots were, but it was like a large shot discrepancy well into the third period. And yeah, they weren't able to get the goals. And I think that's where you look to guys like Brock Besser, you look to the guys like Elias Pettersson to get that key goal to get you into the game. And we saw Philip Hedl drag his team in, like fight off 1 or 2 defensemen and get that tying goal. But yeah, you got to look to your stars. You got to look to the guy who makes 11.5 mil to put you over the edge. And especially when you don't have like JT Miller's gone, Quinn Hughes is injured. Like you're going to need guys to step up. And what a better time than Elias Pettersson against an opponent that's gassed because they played the night before in Calgary. Come on, guys. Like, come on, Petey, let's go. So yeah,
It was there for the taking, right? It would have been nice to see them step up and take it, but you touched on a key point there. No Quinn Hughes, right? Yeah, and you can't really overstate the significance of a player of his caliber missing from the lineup, right? That one change in the lineup probably tips the scales in favor of the Canucks in that game. It was there for the taking. They could have won that game anyways, but you got to think with Quinn Hughes back there, it probably goes the other way. So certainly an encouraging start with the new guys coming over.
100%. And you immediately begin to understand what Alvin and Rutherford saw in those players when they traded for them as well, and Hedl and O'Connor specifically, and Marcus Pettersson. But Hedl and O'Connor specifically, the speed they bring, they're both in the 99th percentile, the top 1% of speed among all players in the NHL. Like, take the Canucks, that was probably like the slowest team in the league, and you inject them with 2 of the fastest players. And my goodness, like I'm very happy, very impressed. And I think guys like Tocchet and Foot are a lot more encouraged with what they have to work with us like now too. Makes them look a lot better. So yeah,
I mean,
that was
how many times leading into that game did Tocchet talk about guys carrying the puck to the middle of the ice?
get inside,
Right.
get to the guts. Yeah.
Yeah, stop playing on the perimeter, stop making it easy on your opposition, right? And we saw time and time again in that first game, Hedl carrying the puck into the middle, distributing from there, shooting from there. That's where the good stuff happens.
That's where his goal came from, taking it right through the middle. Yep.
And you touched on it earlier as well, those controlled zone entries. The amount of dump and chase we'd seen in the weeks leading up to that game. If I saw one more dump and chase, I was going to lose my mind. And then all of a sudden, we're carrying the puck with possession into the zone.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable what a difference that makes, and it seems so obvious. And the hope, of course, moving forward is that that's contagious. That guys see how effective that style of play is, and they go, maybe we should give that a shot ourselves.
Totally.
Because we do have guys capable of carrying the puck and doing that.
Yeah.
Connor Garland does it somewhat regularly. Quinn Hughes, of course, does it. But Petey should be doing it.
Yeah,
right.
Totally.
I'd like to see Besser's a skilled guy. I'd like to see Besser be able to carry a puck now and again.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, that takes us to Tuesday night. The Canucks divisional rivals from Colorado were in town, and the Canucks were once again without their captain and best player, Quinn Hughes. So another gutsy and pretty complete effort, which was great to see. Now, Vancouver was facing Mackenzie Blackwood, who was getting the start for the Avs, coming off of back-to-back shutouts over the weekend, and Demko was going for the Canucks. So there was a lot of early pressure from the Avs in this one, right? First period, the Avs hit a couple of posts. I thought, this could be another rough outing from Demko. I was a little worried. Couple of posts, but you know, John Garrett would always say on the Canucks broadcast that that's all he gave him,
Yeah,
right?
that's
All that
right.
was available was the post, and that's just fine. So, I don't know what was said in the intermission though, but puck dropped for the second, and whatever that Demko was gone, and we had bubble Demko back for the first time in I don't know how long, since the bubble maybe, but yeah, DeBrusk gives the Canucks the early lead. I don't know if you caught it in the broadcast, but DeBrusk seemed surprised that he scored.
Yes, I did see that. Yeah.
Like, I know it's been a while, Jake, but it hasn't been like that long. Like we all still believed you could do it.
He
That
just
was
forgot how it felt.
that was hilarious. But yeah, and then Demko just goes off, right? Just grade A save.
Oh, it
after
was
grade A
unreal.
save. It really was like being back in the bubble.
Yeah.
Just watching him put this team on his back and carry them through these prolonged pressure shifts.
Yeah.
It's just vintage Demko. So as a result, the Canucks enter the third with a lead. And that's not a super common occurrence, and it's certainly not a situation that filled me with a lot of optimism,
Yeah.
given all the leads we've blown in the third. But
Plus, we've played the Avalanche once, like 2 months ago, and we nearly had a shutout. It was like 4-0. I think they scored with a minute to go and make it 4-1. So extra like vengeance there. They don't want to lose twice to the Canucks. Plus, their last 2 games, they're coming off a 5-0 shutout over the St. Louis Blues, followed by a 2-0 shutout over the Philadelphia Flyers. So like, and this is a Canucks team that's already feeling good about itself, but not all the way there. I'm like, this is the full recipe of Seattle to happen all over again. I mean, countless games where we let up in the third and let them back in, and then Nathan McKinnon goes full Nathan McKinnon. Yeah, but
hopefully at least in overtime, so we get something out of it.
yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, and you got to remember, Colorado too, they're riding the post trade bump themselves.
Totally.
Right? Everybody thought, okay, Carolina's making out like a bandit here, getting Mikko Rantanen, but really, Nietzsche's is the one who's been going off for Colorado. He's looked like a great fit for them early on. So Canucks had that to contend with as well. We go to the third period, and I'm sure there was actually hockey played in there somewhere, but it felt like a bit of a sideshow. And I remember this one sequence in particular, and I had to write it down. Logan O'Connor, so not our Drew O'Connor, Logan O'Connor.
I believe they're brothers.
Are they really?
I believe they're brothers. Let me just check that.
So he's trying to break out of the Avs defensive zone. So Connor Garland picks his pocket, takes the puck away. But as Connor Garland does, gets cross-checked to the ice. No call.
Of course.
Hops back up to his feet. So that's Middlestead. Cross-checks him to the ice. Logan O'Connor, who I think was not too pleased with getting his pocket picked by Connor Garland, comes and gives him a bit of a slew foot. And then what happened immediately after that? Elias Pettersson comes and gets involved. Right? We got a response from a defenseman, right, in support of a teammate.
20-year-old defenseman.
A physical response.
Team like 2 games. Yeah, that guy.
Brand new to the league. And we've talked about how, it looked like he was playing a fairly cautious game, not wanting to make mistakes. He was kind of limiting the physical play a little bit early on in those games.
Yeah.
And I was kind of wondering when it was gonna show up.
Right.
And then it did. And it feels like, to use our first dog analogy of the show, felt like the leash came off in that moment. Right. All of a sudden he was allowed to kind of explore that element of his game. And it's like that brought him to life as well. So, I mean, there's an absolute mayhem on the ice, but the Canucks come out of it with a power play, which is great.
Thank you, Miles.
Right? Oh, we're gonna get to Miles Wood. Are we ever gonna get to Miles Wood? So DPD takes a penalty there, but we get a power play. And DeBrusque feeds Brock Besser for the 2-0 goal on the power play, giving him 70 power play goals for his career with Vancouver, passing Pavel Bure and his 69.
Oh, I didn't actually know that.
Right?
Brockstar, let's go.
And that's pretty impressive. I mean, you got to remember, Pavel Bure is a guy with his number retired
Yeah.
in Vancouver. So anytime you're surpassing a guy with his number retired in any category, that's a feat. So that was great to see. DPD was physical throughout that game. That was fantastic. Boy, were the Canucks getting under the Avs' skin.
Oh yeah.
When they weren't able to score, it's like every Canuck suddenly turned into like prime Alex Burrows or like Max Lapierre, just needling their way under the skin. So I mean, Miles Wood takes a penalty on Höglander, who's I don't know why Miles Wood is the last line of defense on this play, but he is. And then for some reason he's going to the box. Linus Karlsson says something to him, and he decides the proper response is turn around and spear him in his I'm gonna say lower body.
Let's go with that.
Right? Lower body. That works. So Karlsson said something. I don't know what it was, but called a slash instead of a spear. But a power play.
Yep.
Right? McCarr tried to draw a penalty, didn't work. He got frustrated, then he takes a penalty on Pettersson, Elias Pettersson, so drawing a penalty, actually protecting the puck.
Yep.
And 5-on-3, right? Nothing really comes of it because I don't want to dunk on Brock Besser too terribly much, but wow, was he bad on that 5-on-3. It was terrible. But then Drew O'Connor gets his first for the Canucks into an empty net. And big 3-0 win and a shutout for Thatcher Demko.
Hell
who
yeah.
truly looked like he was back.
100%. 100%. There was the interesting stat that I saw. Who was it by? Let's see. It was Wyatt Arnett that subtweeted it, but it was talking about the zone entries. I think we'll pull it up here. The zone entries for Philip Hedl and the rest of the Canucks team in that Avalanche game. Philip Hedl went like through every single time. There was just a hot knife through butter cutting into the offensive zone, and like no one can stop him somehow. He just kind of has enough speed and good enough mitts. Like, I think Philip Hedl is what Elias Pettersson thinks he's doing when he's skating through center ice. He's like, I'm flying and like my hands are great and they can't touch me. And then he like stops moving because he forgot that he wasn't actually skating. And then he gets the puck taken away from him. Somehow Philip Hedl, he just like skates while stick handling and isn't like, if Elias did that, the dude could do, like, he can get through no problem. He's slippery enough. He can do it. But Philip Hedl is just being like, nah, I'm just going to skate through them. Nothing you can do. And then when they set up shop, they're really good at the cycle. Like, you can tell the Sedins are a part of the coaching staff because they are very good at the cycle. And I was just really impressed because that's an issue that's plagued us for years about trying to get into the zone, onto the power play, just needing to get in the offensive zone. It'll be like Miller takes a rush up and then loses it because he takes on 4 guys, and then Pettersson takes a run at it and loses it, and then Brock Besser, and I'm like, oh my goodness, stop. Like, Philip Hedl's got enough speed that he doesn't just run into 4 guys, he just keeps moving. So anyway, was very impressed with that aspect of him. And I think Elias Pettersson was on the bottom. I think he was second last in zone entries. So again, come on, man.
Another game where he didn't seem to get the new guy bump.
Yeah.
And I can't help but wonder if, that's maybe weighing on him a little bit too, right? It wasn't that instant switch flip when JT Miller left that we were all, I don't think expecting, but we were all certainly hoping for that was going to be a weight off and he could just be himself and do his deeks, right? and the switch didn't get flipped, and now he's seeing these guys do it I don't want to say with ease, but almost, right? In that game, especially, Heedle did kind of make it look easy. And that's
Yeah.
saying something, but yeah, I think that that might be adding to it as well. And I mean, we're gonna get into the Sharks game here in a minute, but it's a storyline we're gonna see continue a little
Yep.
bit with Pettersson.
Yes, sir.
But
Yeah.
that was such a satisfying win.
Yeah. And to hold on for the shutout, like the amount of times that we've lost Demko a shutout in the last minute this year, it's like the dude should have like 4 extra shutouts. So for us to gut it out and get him that one, and for him to stand tall, that felt so good. And
I mean, we used to do to Luongo all the time too. In fact, one of the early things that really got me into a more nuanced view of hockey was a Canucks blog called Pass It to Bulis
yes,
with Daniel Wagner and Harrison Mooney, who's no longer with the blog as I understand it, but they actually coined the phrase snack goal.
oh,
Right.
I haven't heard that.
For a goal late in the game that you just kind of give the opposing team so that they're not too hungry for payback in the next one. Right. Just toss them a bone, right?
Interesting.
Because you get shut out. Yeah, next game round, you're gonna be fired up for that game.
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden it's just like a 3-1 loss, and it's like, yeah, whatever.
I've never
Right?
thought of that before,
Snack
but I like
goal.
it. That's awesome.
Yep. Pass it to
That's
Bulis
awesome.
for you. Shout
All
out
right.
to those guys.
Well, we'll get on to the San Jose game. Yep.
That was a hockey game.
It was technically a hockey game. Not a high event game. It was in the third period, and my wife looks at me and she's like, I haven't been watching, but this game's really boring, isn't it? And I was like, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's really boring. But it was tight, and I can appreciate a good defensive matchup. I enjoy them more when it's like Canucks Colorado, Canucks Tampa Bay, and it's like, oh, this was Canucks Sharks. It's meant to be a high scoring game, and a little bit of a letdown that it wasn't that, but they played very good defensively. I felt like, I don't know, there's a couple little breakdowns here and there. You see a little bit of the new guys maybe not having that much time having practice with their teammates, and there's the occasional pass. They don't know where this guy's going, or a couple things like that. But for the most part, it feels like Drew O'Connor and Philip Hedl have like chemistry somehow, even though they came from like very different teams. But those guys together just look like they've been playing together for like 10 years. Love that Brock Besser's got put onto that line. That seems to have gotten him going. I think it was before that game started, he was talking about how he was just struggling to try and keep up with them because they're so fast. And I think playing with JT and whoever else they would stick on the line, very, very much a slower line. So I think having those two guys that can just fly up and down the ice, it's been a good challenge for Brock, and he's stepped up. Like, he is flying. The engagement in his game, the hustle, the puck battle, their forecheck. I didn't know what a good forecheck looked like ever. I don't know if the Canucks have ever had like a forecheck like they do right now. It generates energy. It's like moving the puck, and what they do, and it's something I've loved in a lot of like really good teams over the years, is their forecheckers get on the defenseman right away. The defensemen think they have time behind the net, they have time to breathe, they're gonna look, oh my shoot, there's Connor Garland, I gotta go. There's no time. Like Drew O'Connor, Kiefer Sherwood, and now guys like Pius Suter and Brock Besser jumping in there. Occasionally Tyler Myers whenever he feels like it. They're forcing the defensemen to have to make moves. And most defensemen, aside from like Hughes and Makar, have to actually make a play because they can't skate their way out of it. And when you have to make a play, oftentimes under pressure, it's not a good one. So yeah, I've been super happy with how their forecheck looks. It's very promising, and they're reaping the rewards of it. And oftentimes when they're like in a slump, we've often needed a goal to get out of the slump. That's been a thing for Canucks for quite a few years now. You're like, just get a goal and you'll be okay. Like, you'll get going and it'll all be fine. Now, if they're slumping, they put out whoever, like any of the lines that are going, they get a good forecheck. The next line comes out with another good forecheck, and they have a goal most times. So yeah, have been very impressed with that. And defensively, like Tocchet has installed, and Adam Foote and Gonchar have installed a defensive structure that really seems to be working. Again, some of the best defensive structures we've seen. This from Jeff Pettersson. Canucks have allowed 13 goals in their last 7 games, and 5 of them came in Dallas. So 8 goals in the other 6 games. That's unreal. So, and that's a 2-1 win in Washington, a 5-2 win in St. Louis, a 3-1 win in Nashville, a 5-3 loss in Dallas. So that's where we give up 5. Then a 3-2 loss in Detroit, a 3-0 win in Colorado, and a 2-1 win against the San Jose Sharks. Yeah, you're going to be very good, and you're going to be very, very good in the playoffs if you can instill a defensive structure that is that consistent. And with the goaltenders and now defense that came out of nowhere, I'm confident, like, if we can get in the playoffs, we are extremely dangerous. Like, I don't think there's a top team that wants to have the Canucks as their first round matchup.
Yeah. I mean, ton of great points there. I think, you mentioned O'Connor and Hedl being on the same line. And even though these guys came from 2 different organizations, I think it speaks to the management of the Canucks looking for a certain type of player right now, right? I think they're really trying to create an identity with this team. Because you look at the way the lineup is constructed now up front, every single line has strong forecheckers on it. Every single
100%.
one. There's not a line going over the boards that isn't going to be pressuring the other team's defense every single time. And so as a result, you're getting that constant pressure. So the fourth line goes out, maybe they don't score a goal, but they keep the puck in the offensive zone, right? They forecheck hard, they win puck battles, and then the next line comes over and they do the same thing.
Totally.
And they're finally getting that sustained pressure that's been missing for so long. And the speed, I love mixing up the speed with Besser as well, right? It's I think kind of forcing his hand a little bit.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's like, we know there's more that you can give there, Bess, right? Like, you're a strong guy. There's no reason that you should play quite such a laid back style.
100%, totally.
Right? Unless you're out there scoring 50 goals a year, and you're not. You had one great goal scoring year, but you're not scoring 50 a year. So you got to bring something else. And I think this is just making him really earn it, or it's going to be so noticeable that he's not.
Totally.
Right.
I think
with
like,
Miller, he kind of fit in.
Yeah.
That was kind of just that line. But now it's going to be obvious.
And you notice the hunger that he has now, like, just, I don't know, that's something we saw in the first couple of years. I saw a highlight reel of the 22 goals he scored in his first season this year. And it's like, man, that guy like hounded for every puck. He like wanted it so bad, and he was so happy when he scored. And now it's not that he like doesn't care. I'm definitely not saying that. But the I don't know, the joy was lacking maybe a little bit, or that fire, the hunger to like go get it was lacking. And I think bringing in guys like Hedl and O'Connor have really helped be like, okay, I know you've gotten comfortable with the last quite a few years and the guys you're with and everything. Here's a culture shock, and here's 2 guys that just fly. Now go keep up with them. Also, it's your contract year. The more goals you score directly equal more dollars in your bank account. Like, go get it, dude.
Well, not only that, but I think it's so important for the Canucks management as well to see what exactly can we get out of Besser.
Yeah.
They're at a huge fork in the road with this guy. Because if you don't think he can be that dog out there, right? that fire in his belly, playing with that passion, that hunger that he's shown, if he's not that guy, I don't think they re-sign him. And if you're not going to re-sign him, I think you got to move him. I don't think you can lose an asset like that for nothing when you're trying to
No.
build a young team. So we've got a couple weeks left to figure out what exactly is Brock Besser going to be. And for me, as far as I'm concerned, I want that hungry Besser, and I want him to be on my team. But he's got to want that, right? And if he
Yeah.
can't get there, and he's got to be honest with himself too, right? It'd be real easy for him to just waltz into the off season, take a sweetheart deal, go home to Minnesota, and play out the rest of his career being a 25, 30 goal guy, and that's it. Nobody would really expect too much of him because he's the hometown boy come back, right?
Totally.
But if you want to be in Vancouver and you want to be part of a winner, I think they're setting those expectations now with these moves.
Yeah.
But
And no one's
just-
safe. Like, that's
Yeah.
clear.
I wanted to make one point about the very beginning of that San Jose game. In
Okay.
about the first 5 minutes, I thought that was going to be a 10-0 Canucks
Yes,
win.
me too. Me too.
I really did. I thought finally we're going to get one of those blowout games where Petey gets like 5 points and he's just on fire and everybody's, padding their stats, and it's just going to be like just a great old time.
barn burner, like
Yep.
7-2,
In just
8-1. Yeah.
the best way. And then when it didn't happen, when they didn't get that first goal for a while, it was just like, okay. I think some of those old feelings started to creep back in. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They started feeling a little sorry for themselves, almost like, this should be easier. It's freaking San Jose. But
Totally.
thankfully, the Sharks have Macklin Celebrini, who decided that he was going to do the Canucks a favor and help them out on both
And
Canucks goals.
That was kind of a soft call. I was quite surprised by that call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're referring to the penalty shot?
The penalty shot. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially in overtime. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
you can call that a penalty. I think I could live with that a little bit easier.
Definitely.
But penalty shot?
Yeah. Something I've been concerned of is the Canucks' ability to put a team down when they're struggling. Like, when you smell blood, when you taste blood, you got to like eliminate them when you have the chance, because that's going to go away. They're not always going to be, throwing the puck up the middle of the ice and, giving you 2-on-1s. Like, that's going to go away with any opponent. You have to capitalize when you have the opportunity. It's one thing I love about Brock Besser. That dude always capitalizes. So very rarely does he not. And lately, he's had a couple where, he just misses. But for the most part, his ability to put the puck away when he's in a grade A scoring chance is like Ovechkin. Like, it's really neat. But I was a little nervous when we didn't put the Sharks away. And then we got more momentum later in the game, and then we didn't put them away again. I'm like, oh boy. I've seen this before. This is where Tyler Toffoli scores with 2 minutes to go, and they win the game 1-0. And yeah,
Wait, what did Toffoli do in that game again? Oh, right, he scored.
Yeah, he sure did.
Right.
He sure did. But thankfully, we already had one in. I think that's all we really need to talk about with that one. It was kind of a snoozer, but we won, and we won in overtime, and the new guys showed up to win again, and I'm pleased. That's fantastic.
Got it done. Demko, another stellar game.
Yes.
What few chances the
Yes,
Sharks,
of course. Demko.
What few chances the Sharks had, Demko was there.
He was a brick wall, 100%.
Absolutely. So one goal against in 2 games. Just more signs that Demko's back. So,
and like 2 minutes away from 2 full shutout games. Yeah. That's Demko looking like vintage Demko right there.
And then today.
Then there were the Leafs.
Yeah.
With a 4 o'clock start.
And Demko.
In Vancouver.
So, the Leafs. Pardon me. All right. I wrote up this intro. Saturday afternoon, the Leafs were in town, bringing with them a 4 p.m. start, because of course they did. Now, I know the Leafs are NHL royalty, but bringing an actual prince for the ceremonial puck drop felt a little on the nose. So Prince Harry dropped the puck, I guess, to do with the Invictus Games.
Okay, why did Prince Harry drop the puck? There were like people that were being honored, and they had to stand there, and they couldn't even give the other 3 people a puck to drop and drop 4 pucks. No, it had to be Prince Harry standing in the middle to drop the puck to take away the moment from these other people. Come on, man.
I have no interest in the Royals at all. I will say though that if there had to be one, Harry's probably the most tolerable from what I've seen, but I just don't care. Let's just play hockey. But again, so another game that that Quinn Hughes was not in.
Yeah.
I don't know. The Four Nations. We're hearing from a number of teams that a number of guys are real borderline. I think Crosby's in the same boat. That it's going to be kind of left up to a lot of these players to kind of decide if they're good enough to go or not.
So one thing that I'm okay with, and this is being talked about by both Crosby and Quinn Hughes's parties, is if they decide to partake, they can sit out the first game. And there's a week in between game 1 and game 2. So you can sit out, having another week off, and then possibly play the second exhibition game, because there's 3 exhibition games or 2. There's 4 teams, sure. So there should be probably 3 exhibition games, I think. Anyway, he can skip the first game and like just rest for that week, and then potentially play in the second game. But I don't know. I'm kind of like, just Quinn, take it off. You're going to be in the Olympics in 2 years. That's the one that really matters anyway.
Yeah.
We'll see.
And I think I'm so paranoid about lingering injuries because there's still that chance that that's what's, what we're dealing with Pettersson, right?
Thatcher Demko.
Well, yeah. I'm burying the lead with Demko a little bit here, but yeah, I mean, Pettersson's been off his game for a long time, and there is some who are speculating that that's a lingering injury that he's trying to play through.
Now, and reporters keep asking, and they keep being told by the Canucks that there's nothing going on there.
Yeah, but that could also be the team saying that he's good to play,
right? Period.
And if you're good to play, then there's no excuse.
Fair,
but
fair.
He's also a human, and you can see a scenario in which maybe he's not 100%, but he is good enough to play, but it is affecting him enough that he can't be as dynamic as he expects to be, and that everybody else expects him to be. So, to that end, I say, Hughes, take all the time you need. The Canucks are doing okay in your absence, where they're holding down the fort. But then the same thing for Pettersson. If there is something, man, buck up, go to management, say, look, I'm not playing. You can force me to put on my gear, but you can't force me to play, and I'm going to rest until I'm healed. If that's truly what it is, if you're truly battling something and you think that it's preventing you from playing, force the issue. Get another opinion. Do something. Because otherwise,
I might push back.
Bit of a hot take there.
That's a bit of a hot take.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know how you do that if you're looking over at Quinn Hughes, who has a glove that's custom made for the cast on his hand, and he's got like I forget what it was, like a quad injury or something, lower body injury. He's like dealing with all these, and yet he's still getting out for the morning skates. He's trying to do warm up, like he's doing everything he can, and Tocchet is basically telling him, no, you're not allowed. Like, he doesn't matter like what he's got going on. He's trying to get out there. He's still trying, like he's day to day every single time. He's potentially still going to Four Nations. Like, he's doing everything he can to be an absolute dog. And I want to see that out of Pettersson. I want to see him like buckle down and whatever you got that's going on, unless it's so bad that you actually can't play, which is clearly not the case, because sometimes he's zipping around. Tonight he was zipping around sometimes, and I'm like, okay, you look fine. Like, even if it's nagging, even if it hurts, you're clearly still able to move around. And even if you can't move around, awesome. We still saw Quinn Hughes do incredible things with one hand and one leg. Like, if you're truly an $11.5 million player, Leon Draisaitl legitimately had like one leg in the playoffs and broke the record, I think, for most goals scored since like 2000 or since the new salary cap or something like that, for most goals scored in a round. And I'm like, okay, that's a guy who is like bearing down to get the job done. And if it's like, okay, he's going to get it going in the playoffs, he doesn't want to put all his eggs in one basket for the regular season. Sure, I get that. Except he was an absolute no-show when all we needed was a couple goals to get past Edmonton. And again, he brought up his own injuries to be the excuse why he wasn't making it happen.
And I think that those are all valid points, right? You want him to be able to power through and be the superstar and be able to gut it out and do what it takes to win. But we don't really know the extent of the injury. We don't really know what's nagging him.
Fair.
So there is, and this is me, to be fair, giving Pettersson the biggest benefit of the doubt that I possibly can, right? But I can see a potential scenario in which it is just bad enough that he can't be continuously explosive, that he can't have consecutive games week on week where he's as dynamic as he needs to be worth his 11.6, but that he is technically healthy enough to go out there and play hockey, right? I can see a scenario where that exists, but now it puts Pettersson in this position where if you really are going to say that this injury is preventing you from being the guy that you need to be, if you're really saying that it's that bad, then do something about it. Force the issue somehow, but you're not doing that. So how bad could it really be? And if it's not that bad, figure it out.
Can I add one thing?
Absolutely.
If it's really that bad, don't go to foreign nations.
Oh, absolutely.
He's going to an exhibition, and there has been zero whispers about him considering to not go.
And I think that's a great point. I hadn't considered that.
If he has any injuries, he's at least getting his agent to put it out there that, oh, maybe he's considering. Like, Pietrangelo is still playing hockey, and he's like, nah, I'm going to rest and get ready for the playoffs.
I tried, Petey. I tried giving you the benefit of the doubt. Everybody saw it. Everybody saw me try real hard there. But, man, J-Dog with the elbow off the top rope. No, that's a great point. Yeah. I mean, we just talked about wanting Quinn Hughes, if he needs to sit it out to heal up, do it. Man. Yeah. What a great opportunity if there was something nagging. Yeah. Right.
It's the ultimate, like, okay, you're not, like, if you're going to that, then it's not an excuse. It's like, it's like the kid that's like, oh, I'm too sick to go to school, but I'm still wanting to go to my friends to play video games, or I still want to go play hockey. Like, oh, okay. That's how sick you are. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's a great shout.
And I really I don't want this podcast to be the rag on Pettersson. I think the main reason why it's coming out of us, it's coming out of so many Canucks fans, is we know what he can do. We know the potential. We've seen it for several years. You can do it. And also, that's like the only piece we're missing from being really good. Like, our team is solid. We can add to it and get better. But really, if we have a top 1C on this team that's able to get us a goal every other game, we win so many games because we're so defensively sound. You don't need that many. Like
He's a 3C playing 1C minutes and yeah, assignments.
and
It's
getting paid, I think like a top 5 player in the league right now or something like that.
it'd be in that
Top
ballpark.
10 for sure.
Yeah.
Last thing about PD on the Sharks game, he with Pettersson on the ice in that Sharks game, the Canucks had 0 shots for the entire team. The Sharks had 2 shots on net with Pettersson's line on the ice, with Pettersson on the ice.
I don't think Pettersson had a shot attempt in that game against the San Jose Sharks. Not an attempt.
Goodness great. And that's the Sharks. Like that's
the
not
Sharks.
some kind of defend like that. Like even the Nashville Predators, I'd be like, okay, sure, they're a good team that's underperformed. No, this is a team that is meant to pick first overall again this year.
Yep.
Come on, man.
It just unacceptable.
Yeah.
So something's got to give. But
Yeah.
I do feel, and I think you alluded to it earlier, I do feel that something gave a little bit tonight.
Yes. Yeah.
I saw something out of Pettersson that I haven't seen in a while, and I've got some good notes on it. I've got
Wonderful.
a great baseball analogy to work in here too. You're gonna love it. It's a hockey podcast primarily, but we reserve the right to delve into other sports.
We're still sports fans. We're ultimately
right.
sports fans.
That's right. So I guess the first thing is the first goal, the Canucks score.
Mm-hmm.
Great play by Petey. Great play by
Yeah.
Petey. Hits the puck, his head's up. He's looking for options, right? It's not a panic dump down or a turnover. It's head up looking for options. Spots Hronik streaking down to the net on the far side. Saucers him a pass.
And
Perfect.
he gets the puck by intercepting it to start with.
Yeah,
he
he does.
intercepts the puck because he's in good position. And then he makes a very good first pass to a defenseman. Then he doesn't stand still. He gets open for the pass. Then he doesn't just shoot it on net or like look to go around the boards. No, he picks his head up, waits, then shoots, passes it across over to Hronik. Like he sees him the whole way. And Hronik, as soon as he scores, looks up and points at Pettersson. He's like, yep, you did that for me. Thank you.
Yep. Absolutely. Forbert gets his 100th NHL point with the second assist on that goal. So yay for Forbert, I guess. I
Much
mentioned
better with
when
Hronik.
I mentioned when it happened that as horrified as I was to see a top pair of Forbert and Hronik for like multiple games now, I've not hated it.
Yeah.
It hasn't been great. He's not Hughes. He's not in the same zip code as Hughes. But I've not screamed, "What are you doing, Forbert?"
right
at my TV. And I've done that at several guys. But not Forbert. He's been what they needed him to be.
Totally.
In kind of the emergency situation of Quinn Hughes going down.
Totally.
So,
yeah.
I thought that was great. Right after
Totally.
the Canucks score, they give up a partial breakaway to Nylander.
Thank you, Willie.
Not great.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Demko stops him though.
Yes.
And that's the last positive note I have about Demko for this game. Shortly after he skates over to the bench and tells Tocchet he's out. So I didn't
We've
see
seen that so many times now.
I don't know what it was. I didn't see anything that looked awful, but the broadcast mentioned he looked a little off in warm-up. They got some clips of him throughout the game, kind of stretching things out, looked lower body, which is unsurprising.
The play-by-play guy and myself, when we first saw it, both immediately thought of the shot he took up high, because I thought of it too. I was like, oh, that looked like it hurt. He took like a really hard shot, like up in like the shoulder area here, and when I saw it, I was like, oh dang. And then I was like, okay, maybe that's what it was. And then later they pulled up the clips of him in warm up, and I think it's pretty obvious he's grimacing. Even after one of the saves, he's flexing out his, I think, left leg.
Left leg. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's frightening because we know it's been lower body that's been keeping him out and I think caused such a slow start that he had to the year. It's borderline tragic that it's coming on the back of 2.5 a period. Fantastic performances. Like it felt like we were so back, right? We got Demko. Now we just need Hughes to come back healthy and Petey to figure out, and man, it's a dangerous team.
100%.
But so thoughts with Demko, hoping that it's just something's a little aggravated.
Yeah, I was just checking to see if there were anything from the coach on that front. Not seeing anything yet, but yeah. I've actually got the game pulled up here for that first goal and to kind of see what Pettersson does in that play. Let's see if I can share my screen and show you all what that looks like. Pettersson here picks his head up and watches him. And so he just keeps the puck away from these two Leafs just long enough to feed it across.
And they're both pressuring him because he waited.
Yeah, and totally. And how many times have we seen Pettersson lose composure with guys on him or lose the puck or whatever? In this case, he's able to wait and avoid any of their poke checks and those kinds of things to get it, across over to Hronik and to get off to a 1-0 lead. And that was just such a huge start of the game, like such an incredible play by Petey, who's been absent. And I think that really set things off on the right foot, because I don't care if he scores, but if he can be a part of plays manufacturing things happen, then I am very happy. Like, okay, the goals will come, that's fine, just be a part of the play. Like, Connor Garland doesn't score goals every game, but he is always a part of what's going on in the offensive zone. If we can see more of that out of Elias, I think there'll be good things in store, but consistency has been a bit of an issue.
Yeah, absolutely. About 6.5 to go in the first. I made a note. Petey and Sherwood were rushing it in. Sherwood drops it to Pettersson, and I thought, okay, what's Petey gonna do here, right? Too many times again, puck gets stolen, or he just dumps it in, or he takes a shot, but it goes well wide of the net.
How many times have we seen that by him and lots of Canucks? But yeah.
And then it's going back out the other way with speed, right?
Yeah.
But keeps his head up and fires it. Gets a lot on that puck, and gets post, but doesn't miss the net, doesn't defer, doesn't just cough up the puck.
And there was a hole there too, and he took it.
It was a confident move, confident shot. And I think that was built off of that pass to Hronik. Now, here's the really interesting thing. There was some pressure from the Canucks' fourth line not long after that, and they drew a penalty. Great job by the fourth line. I thought they were solid all game.
Yeah.
So on the power play, Petey was kind of in his formerly traditional spot, kind of along the far boards. Puck comes to him, and he's kind of walking in, and he looks shot, and everybody bites. Everybody bites on that shot because he set it up on that rush with Sherwood, right? And because everybody bought that shot, DeBrusk was wide open across the ice, and Petey rifles it over. DeBrusk can't get much on it, so nothing comes of it. But I thought that it was that shot on the earlier rush that had everybody thinking, okay, Petey's going to shoot tonight.
I think you're so right.
Petey might shoot.
And Petey's done historically very well against the Leafs, so they are familiar with him. Yeah.
So this is the baseball reference now that I alluded to earlier, and it's one of my favorite baseball stories from one of just the greatest pitchers of all time, Greg Maddux. And I think I've even shared this story with you before. There's a great video on YouTube. I won't play it, but it's an interview with his catcher of the time, um, Eddie Perez, and he's going over what became known as the Bagwell Gambit. So Jeff Bagwell, great great power hitter, loved to just crush inside pitches. So it's late in a fairly meaningless regular season game. The Braves are up a whole bunch of runs, so like could not be a less important situation. Bagwell's up. Now, Maddox thinks the game's so far ahead that he knows Bagwell likes it inside, so the catcher's calling everything outside. Let's stay away from him. Stay away from him. Maddox calls timeout, brings the catcher out, says, "Let's go inside." Catcher goes, "What the hell are we doing?" And he's gonna crush it inside. He goes, "Let's just go inside." Calls it inside, gives him the inside pitch. Bagwell hits it, according to Eddie Perez, about 1,000 miles is how he described this home run. Just out of the park. 3 months later than the playoffs, deep in a playoff game, bases loaded, Jeff Bagwell comes up. Greg Maddux sits him down on 3 straight changeups because he was waiting on that pitch.
Okay.
He set him up 3 months in advance for
Wow.
that very moment.
That's
right?
unreal.
Talk about baiting the trap and setting the stage. And that's the first thing that came to mind when I saw that play with Pettersson. That
Yeah.
you take that shot, now people have to respect the shot. And that opens up the pass. For weeks, it's been pass, right? Don't have to worry about PD shooting. He's not going to shoot. Let's just cover the passing lanes. And he's completely ineffectual, right?
Totally.
You take that shot once in a while, even if it doesn't go in, you buy yourself the pass.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite baseball stories. He was such a smart pitcher, never overpowered anybody, but man, could think the game like almost nobody else.
That's
So,
fantastic.
yeah.
I would love to hear a story from like NHL players that do that, or if that's even possible in a game of this speed. But that is so cool. And like, so easily could it have been a different team that he faced and he never had the opportunity, but
Of course.
so awesome that he had that opportunity and it worked. Like, that is amazing.
Recognized the potential there, that this was another good team. They may meet in the playoffs, and man, give him a little snack goal, right? Give him a little snack home run.
We're playing checkers. He's playing chess. That's next level. I love it.
Yeah. But it just goes to show, right? Keep people guessing, and you just give yourself options. And yeah. And you see PD, when he's on his game, he looks for those options. And I think he did that all game long. His head was up. He was looking at options.
Yeah.
And he was so much more effective.
Yeah, because he's a good passer. Like, normally he's a really good passer. So, yeah. All right. So next we're going to go on to the dog of the week.
Well, I think first we need to touch on our individual dogs of the game.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, of course. All right.
Yeah.
Dog of the game.
Dog of the game.
All right. Who is going first? How are we deciding this?
Well, I think we can probably each nominate our dog of the game. So I don't know that it matters too much who goes first. I think what we'd like to do is each nominate our dog of the game, right? Dog being the guy who just played with that determination, grit, that energy, that will to win. We want those dogs on the team. So who's demonstrating that in each game? And we want to keep track of this throughout the year, right? We want to have our own award for the guys who are really showing up game in, game out. So we're going to award winners for dog of the game. We're going to track dog of the week. We'll do a dog of the month. And then maybe even a best in show dog of the year when it's all said and done.
Maybe do a little bracket or something. We'll see.
Absolutely. So Canucks versus Red Wings. We are going back a little bit. I'll kick it off because I want to be able to to say this before you do, so it doesn't
Ah,
look like I
dang
stole it.
it.
I'm giving it to one Mr. Philip Hedl
Yes,
in his debut
sir.
game for the
Yes,
Canucks.
sir. Filipino will be getting 2 dogs of the game for that one. That was just a real breath of fresh air game by him. Just made the city of Vancouver be able to go outside and smell the fresh snow new for the first time. Yeah, that was a game that surpassed
beautiful.
expectations for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you can give honorable mentions to a number of guys. I'd give Drew O'Connor an honorable mention. He brought energy too.
Marcus
But
Pettersson was like
yep.
phenomenal in his first game.
Hedl for the zone entries, for that goal.
The
I love how he
clutch
played
goal.
it up to the crowd.
Oh
Oh,
my goodness.
that's how you endear yourself to a
Oh
fan
my
base with a
goodness.
game like that. Oh, beautiful.
And man, how many times have we seen JT Miller or Elias Pettersson come in, rip it, score a goal, and look like they're going to work on Monday morning?
Yeah.
Just so not interested in scoring goals, could not look like they just did anything. And we get Filipino come in clutch time. We've been struggling to get players to score in clutch time. Like when it's 5 minutes to go and you're down a goal. Filipino comes in his first game and does it, and then gives a little mamacita to the fans as he's skating by. Oh, that was fantastic.
Almost
Dog of the
single-handedly
game.
wills that extra point.
Yes.
In that game to overtime. Philip Hedl, our first unanimous dog of the game. Congratulations, Philip Hedl.
All right, on to Canucks Avalanche.
Yes.
I think we might be different on this one.
Here.
Yeah.
I believe we are.
My dog of the game for Canucks Avalanche is one Mr. Thatcher Demko. That dude was rock solid. He wasn't like the greatest in the first period, but I was at a pub with a friend watching the game. And he's an Oilers fan, doesn't watch a lot of Canuck games throughout the year. And so he was asking me about like, different players and stuff. And he asked like, what are your thoughts on Thatcher Demko? Is he getting back to form? And I shook my head at him. I'm like, no, we're still a long ways. And then we continued to watch the second period. And I'm like, oh, well, I mean, he hasn't been that fantastic, but now I guess he's doing great. So yeah, Thatcher Demko
it's
all the way.
The Leonardo DiCaprio meme, right? Where he's like, yeah.
Exactly.
There he is. He's back.
The sequence of saves he made in the second period, I think it was like 3 or 4, including 1 or 2 just sprawling side to side. Thatcher Demko, you are my dog of the game.
And it's really difficult to argue with that, but I'm going to anyways. I think Demko is absolutely a worthy recipient of Dog of the Game. I'm glad he's going to get at least one Dog of the Game vote for this one. I went a very different direction.
Okay.
I thought that this was a breakthrough, bone-breaking dog of a performance.
I know where we're going.
By the youngest Pettersson, Mr. Elias Pettersson.
Let's
EP
go.
25. Oh, when you get a defenseman that can play sound defense, doesn't panic with the puck, can go back and get it, can move it out, and can play with some physicality and get the pucks through, get them on net, you've got something there. And the fact that almost immediately, he's 3 games into his NHL career, and the Canucks are making Carson Soucy available.
Yeah.
I think the team management is so sold on him immediately.
I love it. I love it. I was scared that he was going to get Eric Brandstromed or something like, no, you're not Forbert, so you're not on this team. And I'm so happy every time Rick Tocchet comes out is like, yep, I love Elias Pettersson. He's just a bulldog into every pile in the corner. I'm like, yes,
Elias.
Keep him. Sorry, Elias. Oh my goodness.
I know it's rough. I feel for every new announcer that has to
call I know.
Game, right? You can tell the CBC guys are like, great.
And we really need a nickname. Need a nickname.
Yeah. Absolutely. I thought I thought it was such a breakout game. I couldn't give it to anybody else, but I absolutely think Demko was worthy in that one. So moving on to Thursday, um, I'll jump out on this one. I could not deny Thatcher Demko twice. Couldn't do it. Yeah, he got the shutout versus the Avalanche, let in one versus the Sharks, but he played great, right? The Sharks aren't a great team, but they still got their chances.
Oh, they got
Canucks gave
scores
them
though.
chances.
They got legit power scores that
They absolutely
Yeah.
do. They're not a wet noodle offense kind of team, right? But every chance they got, Demko was there, right? Maybe not as flashy as the Avalanche game, right? Maybe not as significant a game or
I don't
as
think he
worthy
needed
an
to be.
opponent, but I just he was so good for the second game in a row. I couldn't deny him, and I don't think that anybody else really elevated themselves above that. So my dog of the game versus the Sharks is Thatcher Demko.
And I'm going right there with you. My
Really?
dog of the game, Canucks Sharks, 100% Thatcher Demko. Yeah, he gets the double down for me. That was 2 back-to-back performances, very nearly 2 back-to-back shutouts. I think he was less than 2 minutes away from 2 back-to-back shutouts. And from a guy that's been working as hard as he has, he's been an absolute dog in the weight room, in rehab to get back to him. Like, Rick Tocchet has been in hockey for so many years, and he has come out and said that Thatcher Demko works hard. Like, he's one of the hardest working and hardest rehabbing players he's ever met. So I have to give it to him for like battling back, and obviously knowing what we know right now out of what we saw in the last game, that's like my heart goes out to him. But I'm so proud of him for battling back, and yeah, that's the definition of a dog, to come back
Yeah.
and do what he did.
The horrifying thought is I don't remember the last time he had so many consecutive starts
Yeah.
and then he gets injured. And I'm not trying to speculate that was part of it, but I was honestly a little bit surprised that he was getting another start in a row because there hasn't been a lot of days between these games. They've been pretty regular this week.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit surprised. I'm not saying that I predicted this by any stretch, but I did think that Langton was going to get a game in here somewhere.
I think there's been messaging out of the Thatcher Demko party that he needs to get more starts. Like, in order to get into the rhythm, he just needs to
Interesting.
play. And that's kind of the feel I get from listening to Rick Tocchet and talking. Like, they keep putting out that he just needs to get games. He needs to get like playing time. Rick Tocchet is not going to be like, I know more than the goalie and the goalie coach. So I'm pretty
Right.
sure that's messaging directly from Thatcher and the people around him. So and like what they've come out and said is, I think Tocchet like 2 days ago came out and said like, yeah, he needs, he's normally used to playing a lot more than what he has been. And, it's going to take some time, but I think he can get there, and it's just going to take games. So I think that's them being like, okay, you're our goaltender. You're the guy we trust. What do you need? And we'll like do it for you. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it's how do you find the right balance there, right? Nobody can see the future. Nobody knows what's going to happen in any of these games. And obviously, playing consecutive games, he was on a roll. He was on an absolute roll. So it's awful that it happened, but it may have just been unavoidable. So
Yeah.
all right. I think this one is going to be a little bit harder to pick a dog of the game.
I want you to go first.
Oh, you do. You
I have a
absolute
dog,
coward.
but I
Okay.
want you to go first.
I thought that this was a team effort.
I agree.
Pretty much
Fully
top
agree.
to bottom. I thought the team played a pretty dog game here. But, and this is going to cause some controversy for an upcoming segment. we're coming out of the gate strong, debut episode. It's going to be a little all over the place, but I'm actually going to give my dog of the game to Elias Pettersson,
Like
EP40.
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 Okay.
I think I saw more engagement,
Yeah.
more heads up hockey, more desire to win and be in the game and be an important part of the game that I've seen in a long time. And you touched on it earlier. We don't want this to just be dunking on Petey here. That's not what this is.
That's right.
I don't want to get so blinded by the fact that Petey needs to do so much better that I can recognize when he had, in my opinion, an objectively really good game. He had a
Agreed.
good stick on the back end. He broke up plays. He intercepted passes. He back checked. He set up goals. It was quite a complete game. Would I like to see him snipe 1 or 6? Yeah, of course.
But he almost did. Like he's
He
an
almost
inch
did.
away from like a beautiful
Yeah.
shot. Yeah.
So I got to give it to EP40, but I think there were probably 5 or 6 guys that I could just as easily justify.
Oh,
But
Connor Garland in the second
Oh,
period. Oh
yeah.
my goodness. Just
I mean,
wouldn't let go.
oh, and I could give it to Sherwood.
Yeah.
Either Pettersson on the back, like Lankinen coming in. I have a couple guesses where you might go, but why don't you?
I don't think you're gonna have. I don't think you have a guess for what my pick is. My pick
okay.
for dog of the game is Rick Tocchet.
Oh,
He is my dog of the game. He prepped this team so perfectly to shut down Austin Matthews, to shut down William Nylander and Mitch Marner and Morgan Riley and every other, like Matthew Nyes. Rick Tocchet had this team ready to go in a game prior to going on break. That is the game that so many players be like, no, my plane's ready to go to like Turks and Caicos. I don't really want to like get hurt tonight. I kind of want to go on a vacation. No, those guys were ready to go. The puck dropped, opening faceoff, they were ready to go. A problem for the last 2 months that the Canucks can't start on time. We need to have better starts. We need to have better. They showed up with a start right off the bat, and they did not let up. Like it felt like just a Canada USA like battle where two teams, one slightly overpowered, one that's maybe punching a little above its weight or the weight that it's been carrying lately, and they just battled and battled and battled, and they would get the puck in, and their forecheck was so good tonight. They were and it wasn't just one line, like so many lines. They would get the puck in, and Brock Besser would come flying in and make Oliver Ekman-Larsson cough up the puck, or whoever's back there. I was so impressed with their game as a whole that it wasn't just a specific line or a specific player. That was a whole team buy-in to a structure that Rick Tocchet and his coaching staff have laid down to this team for a while. And he's brought these new players in and have already got them like learning and performing the basics he's been trying to teach guys for a long time. I was really impressed with how quickly these players are picking it up and how quickly they're gelling with their teammates. Like they're all on the same page. That's a good vibe going on, and they're playing the right kind of hockey that is extremely conducive to playing in the playoffs. I was listening to a player, I think it was Taylor Hall on Spit and Chicklets, talking about how the Florida Panthers are such a terrible team to play against because they just play playoff hockey all season long. They just ram it down your throats. They are heavy on the forecheck. They're stingy on defense, and they have good goaltending. And I'm seeing that kind of game being played out by the Canucks. And I'm hopeful that like if we make the playoffs and if we can get a couple goals, we are a serious contender. And Rick Tocchet, dog of the game.
You know, when you have to defend the choice that long, it was a questionable one. If we have anybody still with us at this point in the show and you're as outraged as I am about that dog of the game choice.
You're outraged.
I
How are
just
you
want to make it
outraged?
clear that I did not do a good job of establishing rules for dog of the game ahead of time.
He's a part of the team. He's actually on ice level. That's fair game.
It's defensible. I don't know if it's in the spirit of the dog of the game, but all right. The precedent has been set. And just wait for my Patty O'Neill dog of the game in a couple weeks.
I was thinking about that.
That's fine.
I was in Sport Check today, and there were Rick Tocchet socks with Rick Tocchet's face on them. And I was very tempted to buy them. And then I checked the price, and it was $22 before taxes. And I said no. But I was very tempted, and therefore, yeah, dog of the game, Rick Tocchet.
I think we know our first channel giveaway.
Yes.
Tocchet
That
socks.
sounds great.
Rick Sockets?
That's like
Nope.
a mechanic show or something.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that brings us to the naturally
Dog of the
following
week
segment.
Dog of the week.
All right. So we've gone over our dog of the games, and it should be no surprise to anybody that coming out of the debut week for the Dogs on Skates podcast, we have our dog of the week as one Mr. Thatcher Demko,
Oh, yeah.
collecting 3 of the possible 8 votes for the 4 games. An exceptionally vigorous honorable mention to Philip Hedl.
Yeah.
But Thatcher Demko, what a run of play. What a run.
And can we get
And-
more? Please come
Right?
back. Please be okay. Please.
Oh.
Please.
Only there's a way to like
Please.
go fund me health instead of money, right? Could that be a thing?
Can I give
Is there
Thatcher
a-
my popliteus?
I too my puppetus.
You could just
Yeah.
have my whole knee. It's okay. I'll get one.
If I
some
have
other
if I have
time.
extra of them, he's welcome to it. Yeah. So Thatcher Demko takes an early lead for our ongoing top dog segment.
Oh, whoa. So next we have Doghouse.
The Doghouse.
That is the player that is quite opposite to the dog of the week. The player that has needed to show up, hasn't been showing up, and therefore gets sent to the doghouse. Yeah. Do you have anything else to add to that?
Well, I'd like a little bit of feedback from any viewers or listeners we may have. I would like to figure out whether the doghouse player should be automatically removed from the doghouse, or whether that said player has to earn their way out of the doghouse by exceptional play or by another player playing so poorly as to take their place in the doghouse.
Well, we should do one for now. I'm going to say that the player stays in the doghouse until they play their way out. And playing their way out, like, which will mean someone else will be taking its spot. Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
A prolonged period of somebody playing worse than the player who is currently occupying the doghouse.
Now, there is a caveat. I'm going to make a caveat on the fly. The doghouse is only allowed to be empty if a team is on a winning streak at least 5 games. 5 games or longer. If the team is on a win streak of 5 games or longer, the doghouse is allowed to be empty if no one is justified to be in it. But once that loss happens, the doghouse is now, the door is back open again.
And it's fair game.
Exactly.
The point is agreed.
All right.
It is ratified.
All right. Andy, who do we have for our
So now this
who's
is where
in
it
the
gets a little
doghouse
bit
this week?
a little bit controversial, because we talked before going on air here, and the obvious choice should come as no surprise to anybody. It's Elias Pettersson. He's been in the doghouse for a while now, not just with us, with fans in general, with the team, with management. It's an issue. Now, as you'll recall, just a few moments ago, I chose Elias Pettersson as my dog of the game versus the Maple Leafs.
Redemption.
Yes. But I also said prior to that game that I didn't think there was anything that Pettersson could do in that game to redeem what led up to it. That he's been so ineffectual and invisible and just a complete non-factor that even if he scored 5 and made somebody a Save on Foods millionaire, it wasn't going to change things, right? We got to see some multiple games of that kind of PD.
That's key. Inconsistency with Elias Pettersson has been the primary issue. Don't forget, several weeks ago when we played the Leafs last time, what were his teammates chanting to him as he was exiting the ice?
Was that the Selke chant?
That was the Selke chant, yes. Yeah, that was kind of like a one-hit wonder there. We need to see that a lot more frequently. If you're not going to score goals, you need to be like the greatest defensive forward of all time. I want to see like Bergeron out there. But that hasn't been the case. That's
Absolutely.
the 0 shots for, 2 shots against is a sign that you're not keeping the puck in the offensive zone even.
Attempts. 0 shot attempts.
0 shot attempts. And I don't know how many against, but yeah, like I like PD when he's on, but how frequently that's been happening is a concern to me. This is not a new issue. This is something that's been going on for over a year now, over 365 days that he's been struggling. And when we see light, like we did when he played the Sharks in the end of December, scores 2 goals, goes away with an injury, comes back, is playing well, but just again can't produce. And the Canucks are losing games because of it. Need a bit more out of Elias Pettersson, but like build off tonight. Like keep going. I'm holding out hope, but my patience is running extremely thin.
I think there's no other option here. I mean, I guess if you wanted to say outside of Elias Pettersson, if we want to do a dishonorable mention, I might nominate someone like Carson Soucy.
I think he's been good since the benching. I think
he's been better.
I think he's been better. Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, I don't know if you're thinking Juleson because he hasn't even been in lately.
No,
you're talking a guy who's played.
I have a hot take. Take. It's Philip Hronek.
Oh, that's not a hot take. That's a bad take. That's a bad take.
I've been unimpressed with how frequently he is turning the puck over. When there's a chance for him to make a pass, it so rarely gets to the intended target. And that's been driving me crazy. It doesn't matter what zone he's in. It's especially in the defensive zone, trying to get it up to center ice. It's like he can't get it to the right guy. He'll ice the puck because he misses him by 5 feet or like whatever. That's been a primary issue, that as Philip Hronek needs to be the guy that can move the puck. Like we need puck moving defensemen, and so many times he's not getting it to the right guy. He's missing by like 5-6 feet, so the player has to like go back and get it, or it's icing, or they get hit, or like he's not setting up guys well to get out of the zone. And I need to see more. I love the goal he scores tonight. Love that he's ripping the puck, but the primary need we have on defense is to move the puck out of the zone. And I want to see more out of Philip Hronek, especially as a guy who's making over $7 million a year.
Now, I'm curious to know, because that is, I mean, you call it a hot take. I don't know. I'm curious to know if that is in the context of this last week
Yes, it
or
is.
or going further back, because I
It
think
is.
prior to this week, I would agree with you more. I think he had
Oh,
a string of
okay.
poor games that I think he's been trending in a good direction of late.
Okay. Interesting. I
Now,
had the flipped perspective. I had no
so that's
issue with this
fascinating.
game. And I think it's because Quinn Hughes sucks up so much of the oxygen that other players' mistakes, I don't see it as much. And like I was like,
Oh,
okay, when he's on the second line too, you're not facing off against Matthews and McDavid and McKinnon. You're getting the second pairing matchups usually. Now he's Quinn Hughes. He's in Quinn Hughes' spot. Number one power play, number one, he getting the most minutes, and I've been left wanting with
hmm,
his exits and his passes, like just to be on. Because like as a defenseman, that's your primary goal, is to just move the puck accurately. And yeah, he doesn't have the skates, like the legs, to get out of the zone on his own like Quinn Hughes does. He needs to
no.
make the right first pass, and I need more. Like if he made 4.5 million, sure. Carson Soucy, I don't really care because he's making so little. But Philip Hronik, when you're making, like, you're here to be the clear number 2 defenseman, and Marcus Pettersson looks better than you, probably. I want to see more out of Philip Hronik. Show me the $2 million difference that you bring over Marcus Pettersson.
Okay. Well, again, let's hear it in the comments. Was that a hot take or is that a trash take?
I'm not here just to preach to the choir.
No, no, you're not. Interesting. Yes, please weigh in on Philip Hronik.
All right, we have a really fun new segment that I am very excited for, and I don't know what's coming. So I'm going to pass it off to one Andrew here to set it up.
Thanks, J-Dog. Yes, this is this little segment we like to call Who's That Guy?
Who's that guy?
And Who's That Guy? We take a bit of a deep dive into a Vancouver Canuck of the past that you may have forgotten about or you may have never known. Now, I took a little bit of time thinking about who would make a good introductory option for week one of Who's That Guy. I wanted it to be somebody with a bit of an interesting story, right? Not necessarily a super famous Canuck that we've all heard about. We're not going to do Trevor Linden. We're not going to do Mark Messier. I mean, we're going to get into those guys as time goes on. Of course we will. But I'm talking about guys that maybe you haven't heard of or maybe you've forgotten about. So it is my privilege to introduce you all to Kyle Wellwood.
Woo! Kyle!
Ooh, Kyle Wellwood. So he was once a highly touted junior prospect. He was playing first for the Belleville Bulls and then the Windsor Spitfires. In fact, first fun piece of trivia, he was once traded straight up by the Belleville Bulls for Jason Spezza.
Whoa! Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Straight up. Crazy.
Straight up. The trade is 1-for-1.
Wow. Okay. I like that.
Right?
I mean, I don't like that, but
No.
I like the trivia piece.
I mean, good for Belleville, but Windsor,
Wow.
woof.
Yikes.
Yeah. So, but he was highly touted, right? Here's a look at his junior numbers. You can see playing for Belleville, he did have a fair number of points, as you can see here, almost 2 points a game for Belleville. So it's not like it was a completely lopsided trade at the time, but by the time the 2001 entry draft came around, Wellwood's stock was slipping. So as the names were being called, he found himself dropping round after round. He was finally taken in the 5th round by the Toronto Maple Leafs. So Spezza was drafted behind only the legendary Ilya Kovalchuk, who went first overall.
The infamous man that left $100 million on the table to go back home. Wow. Okay.
Love. I mean, you miss those Russian winters, I guess. Right. So at 134th overall, Wellwood was taken just 17 spots ahead of longtime Canuck mainstay, current broadcaster, the one and only stanchion sniping beauty, Kevin Bieksa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Now,
makes sense. Cool.
now might be a little tricky. This is going back a little ways, but any guesses who the Canucks' first round pick was that year?
Ooh. Um, hmm. How many picks did they have in the first round? Just the one?
I think it was just the one.
Kevin Bieksa.
It wasn't a particularly high pick either.
I'm okay. I'm gonna go Ryan Kessler.
No, I think he was a little bit after that. This was RJ Umberger.
Whoa, yeah, nope, wasn't getting that one. I forgot that guy
Nope.
existed.
I mean, I had the benefit I was looking at a draft board when I made this. There's no way I get that either.
I'm
That's
loving the questions though. That's great.
right. Just puts you on the spot.
Yeah.
So Wellwood played 8 full-ish seasons in the NHL. He never actually played a full 82, though he did come close a couple of times. He got his first taste of NHL action in the 03-04 season, suiting up for one Leafs game. He had no goals, no assists, a -1, and right back down to the AHL he went. So that was the St. John's Maple Leafs, the AHL affiliate of the Toronto Maple Leafs, of course. Goes down there, and like the good hard worker he is, Canadian boy, he puts his head down, works hard, and makes the AHL All-Star team, scoring 55 points in 76 games, and actually won AHL Rookie of the Month in November.
Wow.
So
okay, let's go, Kyle.
Right? His next season would be even better, once again making the All-Star team, now scoring 38 goals and 87 points in 80 games for the baby Maple Leafs, in what would be his last season in the minor leagues. He left the St. John's Maple Leafs as the franchise record holder for scoring 5 goals against the Cleveland Barons in a single game.
He had 5?
5 in a game.
Oh my!
Not 5 and a game, 5 in a game.
Wow! And that's in the AHL, a league that's
AHL.
even harder to score in than the NHL.
It's a remarkable feat.
Hot damn!
Rumor has it Nolan Schaefer, the Barons goaltender, who was in net for all 5, went immediately into protective custody after the game. Now,
what?
Now, I mean, I made that up.
Oh, okay. Wow, you had me.
He couldn't be reached for comment. I mean, most likely because I didn't try. It's a record that is going to be really difficult to break, as the St. John's Maple Leafs ceased to exist after they moved to Toronto and became the Marlies at the end of the 04-05 season. So, as a smaller player, I mean, Wellwood was generously listed at 5'10". He's never known for his overwhelming firepower. Instead, he used fairly slick footwork and stick handling skills to evade opponents and move the puck. His first full season in the NHL came in 05-06, where he suited up for 81 games for the Leafs. He'd never again match that number of games played, and he put up a pretty solid 11 goals, 34 assists for 45 points in those 81 games. Not bad for a rookie. Now, the Lady Byng is an award given to players who exhibited the best sportsmanship and gentlemanly conduct combined with high standard of playing ability.
Think of like Henrik Sedin.
Yeah. The Pavel Datsyuk, the nice guys who can still score. They don't take a lot of penalties, right? So he outscored 4 of the top 20 and had fewer penalty minutes than all but 2.
Wow. I didn't realize that. Huh.
Yeah. I'm about to blow your mind with
Here
some
we go.
Kyle Wellwood stuff. Hold on. When we're talking about his sportsmanship and his gentlemanly behavior, that rookie year was his most heavily penalized professional season.
Wow.
Where, get this, he served 14 minutes of penalties. Not 14 penalties, 14 minutes of penalties.
Over the course of what?
81 games.
Wow.
And that was his most heavily penalized season.
Wow.
In fact, at one point in his career, he went 159 consecutive games without taking a single trip to the box.
What the heck?
In
That,
489
what?
career regular season games and 40 postseason games, he had a total of 36 penalty minutes
Wow. So
in
that's
8
like
years.
no fights, no misconducts. Like those are probably like, that's all just minors.
Like a guy accidentally stepped on his stick and the ref called him for tripping.
Wow.
Yeah. 36 minutes in 8 years. Now,
Wow.
Miles Wood had 23 penalty minutes on Tuesday against Vancouver. Little callback to the earlier segment there.
And could have had more.
Absolutely. And in fact, I think he did get a bunch more the next game they
my
played
goodness.
there. Yeah, and that was in 8.5 minutes of ice time. on
Oh
Tuesday.
no.
So some remarkable achievements for Wellwood. Just a gentleman out there, right? Also a solid face-off guy. 55.2 career average. Only had 1 year where he was below 50%, and that was his first year in San Jose after he left Vancouver. So, speaking of the Canucks, let's talk about Wellwood's time with the Canucks. There's not an awful lot to talk about. They embraced the Wellwood lifestyle when they claimed him from the Toronto Maple Leafs scrap heap in the 2008 offseason. He was a waiver pickup, of course, and he played only 2 seasons with the Canucks, and he left just before that famous 2010-2011 season, where they went on a bit of a run, as you'll recall.
Indeed.
So he was an okay regular season performer, but he's one of those guys who always seemed to elevate his play in the playoffs. It was about 0.35 points per game in the 2 regular seasons with Vancouver, 0.59 in the playoffs. Never took a penalty in the playoffs with Vancouver. Despite being considered an injury-prone player, he managed to play more NHL games than half the players taken in the first round of his draft class.
Wow. Okay.
And
wow, that's crazy.
One more fun bit of trivia. He was also one of the last players in the NHL to use a 2-piece stick.
Oh.
At the beginning of the 2009 season, he experimented with that hot new technology that was composite 1-piece sticks. I mean, they had been around since the late 90s, and by 2009, they were everywhere you looked. But the result of that experiment was 19-game goalless drought to start the season. Now, whether out of frustration, just wanting to go back to what was familiar, or just straight up desperation, he went back to his old faithful from the last 15 years, the 2-piece stick with the wooden blade. And soon after, potted his first goal of the season. Because of course he did.
Of course, yeah.
Proving that sometimes it makes sense to stick with what you know, especially if it's been working for you. So he finished up his NHL career with a stint with the Jets, wrapping that up in 2013-2014. After that, he failed to land an NHL job and decided to make a go of it in the Swiss A-League.
Oh, I didn't know he kept going. Okay.
I mean, there's a reason you didn't know he kept going. He played just 9 games, scoring 3 points before realizing his heart just wasn't in it anymore.
Yeah,
so
that's
he called
fair.
it a career at
Good
just
call,
30
Kyle.
years old. Yeah. His time with the Canucks was brief, and maybe he didn't make the biggest impact on the overall fate of the team. But I, for one, thought he was a pretty fascinating player and worth a look back on.
Love it.
And that's your
Well
random
done.
Canuck of the past.
Well done. That's awesome. I did not know most of that. I remember Kyle
Right?
Wellwood, and that is about all. I remember him as a player, and I don't really know anything about him. Well, now I do. Now to the final segment of our first ever episode of Dogs on Skates. We have the draft.
Draft day.
Today's draft, we are going to be drafting the songs that best represent the Canucks season so far this year. I am extremely excited and had a lot of fun prepping for this segment. And we're going to leave it to interpretation as we see fit. We can explain our picks. We might even put it up for a vote, see what you guys, the fans, think of our drafts, which one was better, which one was more accurate. Yeah, but how do we figure out who starts first? Do you have a way of figuring this out?
I do. I think we'll flip our special Dogs on Skates coin. So we have a two-sided coin. We have J-Dog on one side. We have Andy on the other. And the winner will get the first overall pick. And then we'll do a snaking style draft. So winner takes first pick, loser gets 2-3, winner gets 4-5, and so on until we've each filled out our roster of 4 songs describing the Canucks season. So, you ready for the flip?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
It's J-Dog.
Oh, let's go. Pick. Oh, baby. Okay, here we go. So, the way that I have interpreted this is I have broken the season down into 4 segments, 4 like pivotal points in which we can identify a change in the team or something along those lines.
This is the Taylor Swift era tour, but J-Dog style.
All right. So, with my first selection in the draft, I will be picking Why Can't We Be Friends by War. We came into the year, we were so excited, we had such good vibes, and we found out after not too long that there were talks in the locker room, talks post-game about JT Miller and Elias Pettersson with like their teammates were having conversations with them to try and get it figured out. Like game 4 in the season, game 6. This was a problem at the very beginning of the season. And what did we all say? We're like, why can't they just be friends? Like they just get along. Like they would need to do whatever they need to do and just have it done, have it over with. And that just is easier said than done sometimes. But my selection, Why Can't We Be Friends by War.
Fantastic choice. Fantastic. You know, for all the discourse that's been around the Petey and Miller thing, it's not an angle I approached it from. I regret it so much. That's just rich with options there. Now, I went a slightly different way. I went very off the board with a number of these songs. I really tried to focus on lyrics that made sense that we could apply. Not necessarily really famous songs. I don't even know some of these songs. There's a lot of Google lyric searches involved in my draft. But baby, does this first one ever just... I don't even have to tell you who it's about. I'm just going to read you some of the lyrics to a song called You've Changed by Keisha Cole. You changed. You changed. You got dough and you changed. You got dough and you changed, baby. You changed. It wasn't the same. You got dough and changed. Now, I'm not gonna name names. I don't think it's necessary, really.
Nope, I think we understand.
I'm just gonna let that one sit there as my first pick.
Well done. Well done.
Yeah. The second one I'm gonna go with is it's gonna be Hope and Ruin by the Trues.
Oh, now, I like it.
Yeah. Because I feel like that's what this season has been a lot of, right? It's been little glimpses of what the team could be where you think, oh baby, we're back. We're so back. And then it's just you're off the cliff again. And then you see a little glimpse and then it's ripped away. So Hope and Ruin, living the dream. What we're doing is not what it seems. First to last, best to worst, ash to ash, and blessed to cursed. So whether that's from the highs of last year where the Canucks led the league in every category for most of the year, had 6 guys at the All-Star game, to this year that,
man,
I mean, yeah.
All right.
Hope and Ruin.
All right. I like it. I am very torn, and the whole time you're talking, I've been going back and forth on what my second choice is going to be. But, Okay. One of them is kind of similar to what you drafted, so I'm going to go the other direction. I am going to go, well, I'm going to set this up a little bit. We started the year very excited. Then not too long, we started to get the rumors of, okay, maybe there's some stuff going on. JT Miller goes on leave, more rumors coming out about that. Pettersson and Miller both not performing, the losses building up, more problems coming out of that. And it builds and builds and builds and builds until we have our president go into an interview with the Globe and Mail and say, we have done everything we possibly can. There's nothing further we can do. This has to come to an end. And therefore, I am drafting End of the Road by Boys to Men. That says it all. I'm just going to leave it there. But then, that's not just the end of the road. That's not the end of the season. Everyone's not just getting fired. I thought everyone was getting traded. That still might happen. We'll see.
It's still early.
But what comes at the end of the road? You're not just going to quit. Jim Rutherford, 2 Thursdays ago, woke up and was like, he had a song stuck in his head. And it was a pop artist. And that song that was stuck in his head that Thursday morning, I don't remember. The day that a couple of big trades went down, that song that was stuck in his head was Wrecking Ball by Miley Cyrus. He went through like a wrecking ball and he tore apart the dressing room. It was the biggest overhaul the Canucks have seen since Pat Quinn was the GM. He went through and made some serious changes to that team. Wrecking Ball, my third choice.
Wow. Bold choice. All right. Now I've got a couple options here. I think I'm gonna go, like I mentioned, I really focus on the lyrics on some of these.
Mm-hmm.
The one really refers to a certain period of this season. I don't really think it's applicable anymore, but it was extremely applicable for what felt like far too long. And that song is going to be No Defense by Pulley.
That's so good.
Here's a couple of lines for you. Feel free to take hits on me and don't worry about an apology because it makes you feel good to stand your ground. When it comes to playing my game, you know I'm out of my league.
Oh no.
Tongue-tied, battered, and reversed, I can't get up to speed.
Oh my goodness.
If I make the rules, you break. Feel like a fool who's been taken through the ringer. I have no defense. Is it a joke? Because I'm not laughing.
Well done. That's gold.
Again, I would just like to extend my most heartfelt thanks to Pettersson and Pettersson for coming in and giving my weary soul a bit of respite in the desert that's been the Canucks defense for this year.
The Canucks defense this year? The Canucks defense for my entire life was other than last year.
That's fair, but I mean, there's been some highlights. I mean, the 2011 team was solid. They had a good back end.
I was 10 years old. No, I was 12 years old.
He likes to do that. I don't know how much younger than me he is. All right, so that was my third pick. For my fourth and final pick, again, I've never heard of this group, band, singer. I don't even know. I haven't even listened to the song, but man, do the lyrics work. The song's called Big Softy, and the group I want to say is called Middle Kids. Have you ever heard of this?
I have not.
All right, see if you can get where I'm coming from with this. I got my moves all in a row, but I can't score. I just pretend that I don't care when I'm not sure. It is sometimes hard to go on, try to find a way to be strong. It is sometimes hard to go on. I used to kill it, but now those days are gone.
Is this Dr. Seuss?
I don't know. It could be. Maybe that's his performer name, Middle Kids. And there you have it.
Oh, that's good. Okay. Well, give me the rundown of what your selections are.
No, you got one more pick.
Oh, okay.
You've
All
only
right.
had
All
three.
right. All
This
right.
is your chance.
Okay.
I feel like you're trailing. I feel like I've nailed it. But
well, we have got who was the Dodgers player that just was constantly hitting home runs in the World Series?
Freddie Freeman.
You have Freddie Freeman coming up to the plate. Because after Wrecking Ball occurred, the Canucks land was looking quite disheveled. It looked like there had been a lot of changes, a lot of turnover, and we didn't know really what to expect. But then we played a game against the Detroit Red Wings. And in that game, throughout that game, and at the end of the game, the song that was stuck on my head was A Whole New World from the Disney movie Aladdin. I felt like I was a breath of fresh air. It was a whole new world. I was so excited again. I was seeing Canucks hockey with a whole new light, but kind of the way I was last year. Just, yeah, so drastically different than I was the week before. Therefore, A Whole New World is my selection.
I think you probably
draft.
earn some bonus points for the recognizability of your playlist versus mine, which is fair. I definitely thought of trying to go a little more well-known with the songs, but
I like the lyric base. That was good.
Yeah.
Do you have any honorable mentions?
When I read through my draft board now, I'm sorry, Pettersson. These are like 90% you. I've got the Pretender from Foo Fighters. I've got somebody that I used to know.
Yes, I also have that one. I was this close to putting it there for the first one.
Yep. Sorry, man. Look, I gave you Dog of the Game tonight. Just keep it up.
And
keep it
Doghouse too. Give you Dog of the Game in the Doghouse.
I'll sing your praises, man. Just keep it up. Keep it up, please.
First part of the season, I had The Boys Are Back by Dropkick Murphys. Murphy. The second part of the year, I had Somebody That I Used to Know and Apologize by One Republic. Okay. And then in the third part of the year, like the Wrecking Ball stage of the year, I had Kickstart My Heart by Motley Crue, which starts out with getting high, get high on speed, which is exactly how I felt watching Philip Hedl and Drew O'Connor fly through center ice.
I tried so hard to find speed-based songs.
That was the one.
And then also shooting the puck.
Yes.
Shooting got pretty dark. So just went another direction there.
Yeah, smart.
Yeah. Keep the show PG.
And lastly, the fourth part of the year, after the changes were made, I had Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles as my honorable mention.
Not bad.
All right. Well, that wraps up the draft. That basically wraps up the show. Is there anything else, any final thoughts you have for us before we go?
Not other than to say, please give us some feedback. Tell us what you liked, what you didn't like, what you want to see more of, what you want to see less of. Make sure to tell J-Dog how much better my draft was than his, how terrible his take was.
Which one? There were a couple.
Oh, yeah. I think I'm thinking about the Hronik one, but I know there's
I thought you were going to be still talking about the Rick Taka one. Okay.
Oh, yeah, that one. That might have been worse. That was bad. But it's on the table now, so fair game. It's just as long as it's tangentially related to the Canucks, I guess it can be a dog of the game. Yeah, this has been a blast. I look forward to doing it again next week. It'll probably be a little bit different looking. We won't have Canucks games per se to talk about. We'll probably still have some Canucks related news to recap and go over and talk about. We have a bunch of different segments.
Oh yeah, we do.
This was just a bit of a sampler. So if you didn't like what we had on offer this week, give us another chance. Come back, see what the other segments bring. I'm sure there's going to be something in there for you.
And also feel free to throw ideas in. We're always open to new ideas, new segments. Yes.
I hope the takeaway was that we're trying to have some fun with this, and we want you to have some fun with it too. So come along for the ride and let's enjoy Canucks hockey again, win or lose. It's
Heck
not supposed to be all
yeah.
misery, right?
Awesome. All right. Yes. Please like, please subscribe. Please tell all your friends, send them the show. Thank you all for being with us for episode 1, and we'll see you next time we're here. Hopefully next week or sooner. We'll find out soon. Bye-bye.
Absolutely. Take care.